Hello, Internet. Welcome once again to Quiz and Hers, the trivia podcast where we test each other's knowledge and the strength of our relationship in a 10-week battle for glory.
Oh, I never say that part.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
That's okay.
My name is Justin, and I am here with my roommate, my soulmate, and since we are currently tied with 11 correct answers apiece, my stalemate, my fiancée, Hallie.
Hello.
Each week, one of us writes 6 questions to ask the other person. This week it is my turn. The 6 questions come from our 6 categories, which are times and places, sports and games, arts and literature, sounds and screen, science, and everything else. Each week, all 6 questions are also united by some central theme, and after each question, I will have about a 5-minute discussion about the answer to teach us all a little more, hopefully something that we didn't know before. Ready to play?
Yep.
All right. So today's game is called The Land of the Rising Pun. Yes, I just made a pun using the word pun. I have no regrets.
Okay, I like puns.
So every question will have something to do with the nation of Japan, which is up there on the list of places that I would like to eventually travel.
It's not about puns?
No, it's the land
This is deeply upsetting.
The land of the rising pun. Get it?
Yes, but I like Japan, but I like puns more.
That would be a very hard game to write.
It would. Good to think about, though.
Okay,
Maybe someday.
You can do that
one. If I start now, we can do it in like a year.
Okay, you can do that one.
Okay.
All right, question 1. Times and places. One of the pivotal moments in Japanese history, what famous 1868 event restored political authority to the emperor, ending the Tokugawa shogunate?
I don't know.
Do you have a guess?
No.
Okay. It's called the
mentioned.
Meiji Restoration.
Well, that sounds familiar.
It should. It's very famous.
Okay.
Okay. Let's start with some background before we get into the Meiji Restoration. Japan has the oldest continuous hereditary monarchy in the world. The current emperor, Akihito, is officially recognized as the 125th monarch of Japan, dating back to the legendary Emperor Jimmu, who is said to have established the dynasty in 660 BC. Evidence for the first 28 emperors is sketchy, but there is good evidence for hereditary succession since Emperor Kinmei, who ruled in the 500s AD. That means that a member of the Yamato dynasty has sat on the chrysanthemum throne for at least 1,500 years.
Wow.
But there is a crucial caveat, which is that the emperors were not always the ones actually exercising political authority. The position of the Japanese monarch has always been, first and foremost, a ceremonial and symbolic one. Traditionally, the emperor was the head of the Shinto religion, a symbol of the divine origins and unity of Japan, and the source, though not necessarily the wielder, of Japan's sovereignty. Political power frequently rested with military dictators called shoguns, who were nominally appointed by the emperor, but were recognized as the de facto rulers of the nation. When Portuguese explorers first made contact with Japan in 1543, they likened the emperor to the pope, in that he had great symbolic status but little real power, and saw the shogun as being like a king. The Tokugawa shogunate controlled Japan from 1603 until the Meiji Restoration. They closed Japan off from the rest of the world and established a rigidly traditional society. In 1853, American Commodore Matthew Perry sailed 4 warships, known to history as the Black Ships, into Edo Bay, demanding that Japan reopen to trade with the West. The shogun, being massively outgunned, complied, and the Treaty of Amity and Commerce, aka the Harris Treaty, was formally concluded between the U.S. and Japan 5 years later. Treaties with other Western nations soon followed, and the sudden influx of foreigners to Japan riled the isolationist samurai class and destabilized the Japanese economy. Emperor Komei took advantage of the growing unrest to assert himself politically, issuing the Order to Expel Barbarians, which commanded the samurai to drive out foreigners. This was a big deal. For the past 250 years, an order like that would have come from the shogun. Some clans of warlords, or daimyos, particularly in the Satsuma and Choshu
What was
regions...
that word?
Daimyos.
I've also heard that.
Yeah, so that's the Japanese term for like a feudal warlord, is a daimyo.
Okay.
Yeah. So some of the clans of the daimyos, particularly in the Satsuma and Choshu regions, had smoldering tensions with the shogunate and obeyed the order in open defiance of the shogun's government, which was called the Bakufu, which is Japanese for tent government.
Bakufu.
Yeah, tent being that like the tents on the battlefield, right, that the shogun would have inhabited during times of war.
Okay.
Anyway, American, French, and British naval forces retaliated, and several revolts against the Bakufu sprang up with the goal of expelling the barbarians and restoring imperial power. The shogunate, predictably, brutally repressed them, and it became clear that Japan was no match for the militaries of the West. The Bakufu negotiated with the European powers and was forced to further expand trade with them, which made it unpopular across Japan. The opposition's chief objective shifted from expelling Westerners to abolishing the shogunate and uniting the country under imperial rule. Emperor Kome died in 1867 and was succeeded by his son, Emperor Meiji, as support for the restoration of imperial power grew among powerful daimyos throughout Japan. Forces from Satsuma and Choshu marched on Kyoto, pressuring Meiji to formally abolish the Bakufu. The restoration of imperial power was announced on January 3rd, 1868.
Sorry.
Yes?
That's my birthday.
You were born on January 3rd, 1868? You look great for your age.
Thank you. Just a few years later.
Yeah. The last shogun, Tokugawa Yoshinobu, resigned. Forces loyal to the Bakufu held out for nearly a year and a half, even establishing their own nation, the short-lived Republic of Ezo in Hokkaido, but were ultimately defeated in the Boshin War, completing the Meiji Restoration.
Cool.
Yep. So that is a good thing to know when it comes to history.
Yeah.
Comes up a lot.
Well, this is how I'm learning history right now, so this is helpful.
Good.
Yep.
All right. Question 2. Arts and literature. Irizumi is the Japanese word for what particular art form, which is very associated with members of the Yakuza, the Japanese mafia, and with criminality more generally, an association that it arguably also has in the West.
An art form that's associated with the Yakuza?
Mm-hmm. And criminality more generally, both there and in the West.
What's it called?
Irizumi.
I wanted to say origami, but that just sounds like something completely... That's obviously something else.
Yeah.
Like... No, that's like sporty. Like something with stamps?
Stamps.
I don't know, man. Calligraphy.
No.
Okay, I don't know.
I think you could have figured this one out. This one was sort of a puzzle more than anything. It's tattoos.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the right track.
Yeah, sort of. Stamps.
No, that was not the right track. The calligraphy was the right track.
So Irizumi literally means inserting ink in Japanese, which makes sense. Tattooing in Japan dates to at least the Paleolithic period, 12,000 years ago, but we obviously don't know much about the significance of tattoos back then. We have to skip ahead about 10,000 years to the Kofun period, which lasted from 300 to 600 AD, before we can say anything for sure. During this period, tattoos took on a negative reputation and were placed on criminals to identify them. But Irizumi, the extraordinarily elaborate and distinctively Japanese form of body art, did not emerge until the Edo period, which is the term for the period of time that the Tokugawa shogunate ruled Japan from the city of Edo, now Tokyo, from 1603 to 1868. You see now why I put the times and places question first. The Edo period and the Meiji Restoration are so important to Japanese history and culture that they're still going to come up a few more times.
Okay.
Anyway, woodblock printing had become popular in Japan at that time.
That's what I was thinking of when I said stamps.
Yeah, the woodblocks, yeah.
Just saying.
No, yeah, that's fine.
I was definitely on the right track.
Yeah. So woodblock printing had become popular in Japan during the Edo period, and the Chinese novel Suikoden, which translates as Water Margin or Outlaws of the Marsh, was released in Japan, illustrated with elaborate woodblock printed images of heroic men covered in tattoos. The novel was very popular, and fans wanted the kind of dramatic tattoos depicted in the book.
Huh.
Woodblock printers began offering tattooing services using the same tools that they used in their primary profession. This is why Irizumi has the defining features that it does. Full bodysuit tattoos that essentially cover the person from the neck down, which are inserted under the skin by hand without stencils in a long and painful process using needles made of steel or bamboo attached by silk thread to long wooden handles, and the distinctive ink called Nara, which turns a striking blue-green color when applied under the skin.
I cannot even picture this.
So you'll have to look it up. It's stunning.
Okay, I will.
In this period...
Sorry.
What?
Sounds extremely painful.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. In this period, Irezumi became associated with firefighters who wore the tattoos for spiritual protection and to flaunt the kind of bravery and roguish sex appeal that Suikoden had made so desirable. The Meiji government outlawed tattooing, so this is after the end of the Bakufu, right?
Right.
The Meiji government outlawed tattooing, and Irezumi came to be associated with criminality. Today, it is strongly associated with the Yakuza, and wearers of traditional Irezumi tattoos often cover them with long-sleeved, high-necked clothing. In fact, many younger members of criminal organizations now avoid tattoos for exactly this reason.
Yeah.
Most tattoos in Japan today are done using Western tools like stencils and electric needle guns, rather than the traditional tools of Irezumi. There are very few tattoo artists left in Japan who specialize in the traditional practice of Irezumi, and if you want one of the traditional bodysuit tattoos, you'd better be prepared to pay for it with a lot of effort, time, and money.
Uh-huh.
Even finding an Irezumi artist can be hard, as many of them only accept new clients by referral. And even if you can find one, the whole process can take between 1 and 5 years of weekly sessions and cost $30,000 US all told.
Wow. For all that pain.
Yeah. That said, these things are amazing. You owe it to yourself to give Irezumi a quick Google Images search because the designs and the detail are absolutely incredible.
How do you spell it?
Irezumi. I called it an art form in the question for a reason. And Hallie's going to pull out her laptop and Google it right now.
Well, I want to look.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is an art form.
We can all look together. Have I not heard of this?
I hadn't heard the term, but I figured if I said it was associated with criminality, that was a solvable question.
No, because I don't even know about it.
But I said it also
It's all different colors.
Yeah, but it's mostly that blue-green color.
Oh.
But I said that it also had that association with the West. I felt like that made it a fair question.
I mean, I'm sure it was a fair question. I just didn't know. Cool. That's intense.
Yeah, it's amazing, right?
But there must be enough people that still have it, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people still have it, but not a lot.
Can you get it done here?
No.
Okay.
All right, ready? Question 3. Sports and games.
Okay.
World Wrestling Federation performers Rikishi and Yokozuna were both portrayed as being practitioners of what uniquely Japanese sport/martial art, though neither of them ever actually trained in it.
Sumo wrestling?
Yes, or
just
sumo. You don't actually have to say sumo wrestling. It's actually redundant. You can just say sumo.
I was a little concerned that I wasn't going to get any right in this game.
Yeah, no, it's sumo.
Okay, good.
Rikishi usually refers to lower-ranked sumo wrestlers, but can also refer to professional sumo wrestlers of any rank, though the terms sumo tori and sumo san can also be used in this general sense. Yokozuna, on the other hand, is the highest position that a sumo wrestler can attain, and is usually translated as Grand Champion.
Are they the biggest ones?
They're the best ones.
Okay.
And there's a correlation between big and being big and being good, but it's not one-to-one. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll talk about that a little bit. So this is not going to be a discussion about the World Wrestling Federation. That was just a rather sneaky way of getting into the question.
Got it.
Okay. So the history of sumo is long and to some extent disputed, so I'm not really going to talk much about it. But the professional form of the sport known today has its roots in, of course, the Edo period, when samurai, particularly wandering ronin, would compete to earn money.
What is a ronin?
A ronin is a masterless samurai.
Okay, I don't think the people know that.
Okay, well that's what it is.
Thank you.
Yep. Today, Japan is the only nation where sumo is practiced professionally, though amateur sumo is gaining popularity around the world, particularly in Europe and Brazil, where practitioners of other grappling arts sometimes transition to sumo.
Grappling arts?
Yes.
Is it really called that?
Yeah.
Like other types of wrestling?
Yeah. Professional sumo is organized by the Japan Sumo Association. When a sumotori joins the organization, they also join a training stable run by a retired wrestler called an oyokata. Life in the training stables is highly regimented and dictated by traditions that have been codified as rules by the JSA. Sumo wrestlers are required to wear their hair in a top knot resembling the samurai style from the Edo period, of course, and their clothing is also highly traditional.
So do they have to grow their hair long enough to
Yes.
go into that?
Yes.
Okay.
Every morning is spent training, with the lower-ranked wrestlers, the rikishi, starting the earliest, then doing chores around the training stable while the higher-ranked stablemates, the sekitori, train. Lunch consists of a boiled stew and rice washed down with beer, after which the wrestlers nap, a routine that is expressly designed to promote rapid weight gain, as sheer mass is an important advantage in a sumo bout.
Do they eat a lot?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a lot of rice.
Rice and, boiled meat and fish stews.
Okay.
Yeah. And beer.
Yeah, that would do it.
Yeah. The rikishi do more chores in the afternoon, while the sekitori may relax or handle administrative tasks related to their fan clubs. Not surprisingly, new recruits frequently quit the very difficult lifestyle very early on.
Yeah.
Now to the sport itself. Elaborate Shinto-derived rituals precede every bout, as the ring is purified with rice, and the competitors enter the ring in a traditional ceremony in which they wear decorative aprons, which are removed before the bout. Once the bout begins, the objective is either to force your opponent to touch the ground with any part of his body besides the soles of his feet, or to force your opponent to step out of the ring. The latter method of winning is why weight is such an advantage. A 350-pound sumotori will be able to push a 200-pounder out of the ring more easily, though the smaller man can still win by throwing his opponent to the ground with superior grappling technique. There are no weight classes in professional sumo, so that matchup isn't all that far-fetched. Most bouts last less than a minute before one competitor is forced out or thrown down.
Wow.
Sumo wrestlers are ranked in a rigid hierarchy and move up or down based on their performance in 6 annual tournaments. Unlike most other martial arts, demotion is a big part of sumo, making for a very competitive lifestyle.
Oh, so it's not like karate where you keep going up in the belt
Exactly.
system.
Exactly. So you can be promoted or relegated from different levels of sumo based on your performance in the tournaments. And that's because it is thought of as a sport first, more so than a martial art.
Okay.
Yeah. The top 2 divisions, the Makuuchi and the Juryo, consist of, at most, the top 70 wrestlers, and collectively make up the sekitori, while the lower 4 divisions, the rikishi, consist of about 600 additional competitors, give or take. Not surprisingly, it's the members of the top Makuuchi division that make the most money and receive the most fan attention, with the top champion, the Ozeki, being the pinnacle of the sport. Yokozuna is more of an honorific title than it is a rank, as it can be held by more than one competitor at a time. Generally, an Ozeki must win 2 consecutive tournaments to be considered for the honor of being called Yokozuna. Or you can just be given the name by Vince McMahon, evidently.
I see. What do you mean?
Because that was in the question, right? There was a
that was his
WWF
name.
performer. His ring name was Yokozuna.
Oh, that's funny.
And he'd never trained in sumo. He's just some fat Samoan guy.
But Vince McMahon could do whatever he wants.
He can just call, yeah. So.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Yep.
All right. Question 4. Science. One of the first major format wars originated in Japan when VHS, backed by JVC, competed with a different videocassette technology backed by Sony. What was this other format, which obviously lost the war, called?
What was the first one?
VHS?
Oh, what did VHS lose to?
No, what did VHS win against?
I mean, what did VHS win against?
Yeah.
CDI. I just made that up.
No.
What is it?
Beta. Or Betamax.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Okay. This is really more tech history than straight science, and it probably could have been an everything else question from the business angle, but I situated it in science. I think it's interesting, though, and it does come up in trivia with reasonable frequency, so it's worth knowing a bit about.
How is this science?
Because it's tech.
Okay.
Anyway, the format war traces its roots to the Edo period, when the Bakufu mandated the use of beta because of its superior video quality. Their rivals from Satsuma and Choshu favored VHS because VHS tapes could store more video on one cassette. That's a joke, obviously.
What?
Here's what really happened. Prior to the introduction of video cassettes, there was basically no such thing as home video media. If you wanted to watch a TV show, your ass had better be on the couch when it was broadcasting. Missed that movie you wanted to see while it was in theaters? Too bad, you would never get another chance to see it.
Wow, I never thought about that.
Yep.
That's crazy.
It is.
Okay.
Yep. In 1971, Sony introduced its U-matic system, which was the first format to house videotape in a cassette. It was the predecessor to Beta, though it wasn't intended for home use. It was for professional television production. It had a maximum recording time of 1 hour, which obviously isn't a lot, but that was fine, since U-matic cassettes were constantly monitored by techs who would change them out to make sure that they got everything that they needed, right? So prior to this, videotape and film was on those like reel-to-reel
Right.
units, right? Like you had those big wheels of tape.
Did they have audio cassettes before this?
Yes.
And that's sort of how the idea came about.
Yes.
Okay.
So in 1975, Sony was preparing to launch a new standard targeted at home users based on the U-matic format. At a meeting of industry titans, including Sony, Matsushita, and JVC, Sony presented a prototype of Beta, while JVC had brought a prototype of their video home system, or VHS format. Both companies were deep into the development process and urged their competitor to accept their format for the good of the industry to avert a format war. In the end, neither side budged. Sony made it to market that year, so they started out with a 100% share of the market. That sounds great, except that the market was tiny because VCRs were still way too expensive for the average consumer.
Right.
JVC released VHS the next year, and the war was on. Ultimately, VHS beat out Beta so spectacularly that this is a classic case study in marketing classes. Sony absolutely screwed the pooch in so many different ways. Their biggest mistake, though, was thinking that the 1 hour recording time that Beta had inherited from the U-matic system would cut it for home use. The mentality apparently was, this works for professional television production teams, so it must be good enough for regular idiots to have in their living rooms.
But a movie is longer than an hour.
Exactly.
Hello?
Yeah. VHS could originally record 2 hours, and RCA later licensed the technology from JVC and produced a 4-hour tape. That was another huge misstep by Sony. They were the only manufacturers of Beta cassettes, whereas JVC would license VHS technology to just about anyone.
Yeah.
This meant competition among VHS producers would drive down prices, while JVC raked in the licensing fees.
Right.
So, to recap, Beta cassettes were more expensive and couldn't record a full movie or sporting event, whereas VHS was cheaper and could record more video. The very minor advantages that Beta held in picture and sound quality simply didn't matter to the average consumer. By 1981, Beta had gone from 100% market share to 25%, and in 1988, Sony started producing VHS players, essentially conceding defeat.
I had a Sony VHS player, I'm pretty sure.
Of course, Sony survived and is now one of the largest electronics companies in the world,
Yeah,
whereas...
they're okay. They're okay.
Yeah, they're doing fine. Whereas you don't hear much about JVC anymore. I had to check, and yes, they do still exist.
What do they do?
They still make video equipment mostly for professional production.
I'm pretty sure I had a JVC DVD player.
Maybe. I don't know.
I feel like.
Sony is also the currently reigning format war champion, as their Blu-ray disc beat out Toshiba's HD DVD in 2008 to become the standard high-definition optical disc format.
So they learned.
Yeah, but that's a story for another time.
And also, it's pretty much all becoming obsolete now.
Yeah, everything's just downloadable now. But yeah. Or streaming.
Yep.
Alright, ready for the next one?
I guess. I'm nervous. Wait, how many am I? I've gotten 1.
1 and a 4, I think.
4?
Yeah.
Oh, crap. I thought it was 3. Okay, go ahead.
Question 5. Everything else. Language, in particular. Literally meaning divine wind, what Japanese term originally referred to 2 fortuitously timed typhoons that destroyed invading Mongol fleets, though it has since taken on several other meanings?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
You should. This comes up constantly.
I don't know. Is this from, like, Zelda or something?
What?
I don't know. Thought maybe I was on the right track. Couldn't just talk about Nintendo.
No, because I talked about sumo, and you got that one, so...
Type of monsoon? Typhoon?
No, that's in the question.
It's a type of typhoon?
It is the name of 2 typhoons from history. But you would probably know it better as meaning something else now.
Well, that's not fair to not tell me what the something else is.
Well, that's too easy.
You couldn't even give me a clue. Tsunami.
Is that your answer?
I don't know, yeah.
No.
I don't know.
Kamikaze.
I never ever would have thought of that in a million years.
Alright, well that comes up all the time, so you should know that.
What comes up all the time?
That it means divine wind.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah. So, I find the evolution of words fascinating. So I'm going to talk about the now tainted term kamikaze, how it went from referring to mythologized weather events to horrific suicide attacks in World War II to the slew of other meanings that it has since accumulated.
It's a good drink.
I'll get to that.
Okay.
The Yuan dynasty was established in China by the Mongol Emperor Kublai Khan in 1271. Not content with entirely subjugating one nation, Kublai launched an invasion of Japan in 1274 and conquered a couple of minor outlying islands. But when his ships reached Kyushu, the army's advance onto land was stopped by a determined force of samurai. They were forced to withdraw, but their fleet was met by a typhoon that sank most of their ships. The storm so devastated the Mongol forces that they did not attempt another invasion until 1281. And they did not fuck around this time. The fleet is estimated to have consisted of 4,000 ships carrying 140,000 men, which was the largest naval invasion force in history until goddamn D-Day.
Oh my god.
Yeah. But the Japanese weren't fucking around either. They had built walls along the coast during the 7 years following the first invasion, and the Mongols stayed at sea for months looking for a suitable place to land, until another typhoon obliterated the fleet. The Mongols never attempted to invade Japan again, and the typhoons came to be known as divine winds, with a popular myth saying that the Shinto god of storms, Raijin, had sent the kamikaze to protect the islands. This was a culturally important myth for the Japanese, so much so that the term kamikaze was the name given to a Mitsubishi Ki-15 airplane that made the first successful flight from Tokyo to London in 1937.
Did not know that.
This also happened to be the first flight from Japan to Europe, so you can see why it was such a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
The flight was commemorated in Japanese composer Hisato Ozawa's Piano Concerto No. 3 titled Kamikaze, which premiered the next year.
I see.
So far we have typhoons, an airplane, and a piano concerto.
Yep.
The most famous meaning of kamikaze, of course, is the suicidal dive bomb attacks by Japanese pilots against Allied ships during World War II. The attacks were metaphorically named kamikaze because they were said to be the divine wind that would again crush the invading fleets, though the suicide bombers were officially known as Tokubetsu Kogekitai, or Special Attack Units.
Okay.
The Japanese military had long believed in death before dishonor, and pilots whose planes were irreparably damaged would often try to crash them into enemy ships. But the planned suicide attacks were something else entirely. The first ones took place in October 1944 at the Battle of Lake Gulf. Despite some early successes, the Allies soon became adept at intercepting and destroying kamikaze attacks before they reached the precious aircraft carriers, which were usually surrounded by smaller, faster ships and continuous air patrols. The Empire of Japan sent something like 4,000 pilots to their deaths, which seems like a terrible strategy, except that using a plane full of explosives as a pilot-guided missile was far more accurate than using traditional bombs.
Right.
Ultimately, though, kamikaze tactics did not turn the tide of war.
Right.
The term kamikaze has since been reappropriated in various ways. There's a minor X-Men villain called Kamikaze, a mutant who can fly and produce explosive blasts upon contact, which seems problematic. He was accidentally decapitated by Archangel and is currently dead. I'm not sure if that's any better, really.
Right.
Kamikaze is also the name of a popular song by Walk the Moon, and an album by Eminem, which was released earlier this year without any prior announcement.
I did not know that was what it was called.
Yep. The term also refers to a cocktail consisting of equal parts vodka, triple sec, and lime juice, which is usually shaken over ice and served in a martini glass, but can also be taken as a shot. No, it's not clear why it's called that.
It's
Language
so
is cool.
Good.
Yeah,
I highly recommend it. You made the first kamikaze I've ever had. You make a good one.
Yeah, that's not that hard.
No, it's not, but it's so, I don't know, it's refreshing. Yeah. I like it. I wonder why they call it that. They don't know?
I couldn't find anything about why.
That's so weird.
Language is cool.
Yeah. You would think it would at least be like sake or some Japanese
Nope, vodka.
liquor. Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Question the last. Sounds and screen.
To get it together here. I'm nervous now.
Japanese director Akira Kurosawa's 1954 film about a group of warriors defending a small town from bandits was remade under a different title by John Sturges in 1960. That film was then remade in 2016 by Antoine Fuqua. Name either Kurosawa's work or the title shared by the remakes.
Seven Samurai?
Is that your answer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, thank God.
And the other one is
I don't
the
know.
remakes? You don't know? Magnificent Seven.
Oh, I didn't realize those were connected.
Mhm. Yep.
Oh, okay. That was just the only movie I knew that was, what's his name? Akira
Kurosawa.
That was the only movie I knew that he did.
It's probably his most famous one, yeah. There is simply no disputing that Akira Kurosawa is the most influential, most highly regarded Japanese film director in history. He has been cited as an inspiration or favorite director by luminaries like Ingmar Bergman, Federico Fellini, Stanley Kubrick, Francis Ford Coppola, Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, and George Lucas.
But what about the animated films guy?
Miyazaki?
Yeah.
So, he's also heavily influenced by Akira Kurosawa.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't decide which way to go with this discussion. Kurosawa had a really interesting life. For instance, when Akira was 23, his brother Heigo committed suicide, leaving Akira with a lasting sense of loss that permeated some of his best works. And on a more humorous note, when he first applied for a job as an assistant director, he had to submit an essay discussing the fundamental deficiencies of Japanese cinema and how to fix them. Kurosawa noted in his essay that if they were fundamental, they could not be fixed. He got the job.
Nice.
But if I spend too much time on his life, I can't talk about his works. So I'm mostly going to do that,
Okay.
and I won't even get to all of them.
Wow, okay.
His first quote-unquote major work was called Drunken Angel, and told the grim story of an alcoholic doctor trying to save the life of a Yakuza gangster with tuberculosis. The doctor was played by established actor Takashi Shimura, with whom Kurosawa had worked previously, while the criminal was played by relative unknown Toshiro Mifune in a breakthrough performance that rocketed him to fame. Mifune would go on to appear in 15 more Kurosawa films. So they were very frequent collaborators. And he's probably the actor who's like most associated with Kurosawa, is Toshiro Mifune.
Okay.
Rashomon, one of Kurosawa's most famous works today, was met with mixed reviews when it was first released, probably because of its unique theme and structure. It is based on the short story In a Grove by Ryunosuke Akutagawa and presents 4 different contradictory eyewitness accounts of the murder of a samurai.
Oh, I've heard of this.
The actors repeatedly asked Kurosawa what the truth of the event was, but he said that the film was an exploration of multiple subjective realities. It has been interpreted as illustrating the subjectivity of truth and the impossibility of ever really knowing the facts of an event. It won the Golden Lion, the top prize at the Venice Film Festival, much to Kurosawa's surprise. He didn't even know that an admirer who worked for an Italian film studio had entered it into the competition.
Oh my God, that's funny.
So, it's announced that Rashomon won this award, and Kurosawa's just kind of like, wait, what?
That's funny.
Yeah.
There's a American movie that I bet was based on this. Cannot think of the name of it right now. Ugh.
Probably. He's inspired millions of ripoffs and remakes.
I saw it in theaters and now I can't think of the name of it. There was some terrorist attack.
Oh, Eagle Eye.
No.
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like Dennis Quaid is in it.
Yeah.
Oh, then maybe that
Isn't that what it's called?
I don't think so, but okay.
Hang on.
Oh, look it up. It's gonna bother me.
Oh, this isn't the one with Dennis Quaid, but this is... Oh, no, this isn't the one.
I know it's not the one, that's what I said.
Huh. This is a movie. It sounds bad.
It's called Sight something or View something. I'm trying to think of
Vantage Point.
Vantage Point, that was it, not Viewpoint. I was
Yeah.
thinking Yeah, I saw that in theaters. It was alright.
The film is often compared unfavorably to Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon.
There you go.
There you go.
That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. So Seven Samurai is next. Seven Samurai tells the story of a poor farming village whose residents hire a group of samurai to protect them from bandits. It is widely considered to be the greatest Japanese film ever made, and one of the greatest films ever made, period. I've seen it, and I would argue that the epic final battle still holds up, despite the film being released in black and white in 1954.
I have not seen it.
It's incredible. Yojimbo, translated as The Bodyguard, is another samurai film about a wandering ronin who provokes the two violent factions controlling a small town into destroying each other. It had a huge influence on modern Western films, to the point that A Fistful of Dollars is basically an unauthorized shot-for-shot remake of Yojimbo.
Wow.
Kurosawa won that lawsuit, if you're wondering.
Good.
Okay, a few quick hits to close. Stray Dog is the most important Japanese detective movie ever made. Ikiru is a satirical character study of a dying bureaucrat searching for meaning. Throne of Blood is an adaptation of Macbeth with a look inspired by traditional No theater. Ron is
No theater?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
N-O-H. It's the traditional Japanese theater.
Oh, okay.
So No theater is considered like kind of the high art theater in Japan, whereas like Kabuki is considered like kind of the low art, like popular theater.
I see.
Yeah. Ron is an epic partly based on King Lear about a ruthless daimyo betrayed by two of his sons, who are equivalent to Lear's treacherous daughters.
R-O-N?
R-A-N.
Okay.
And I've barely scratched the surface of any of these.
Right.
Kurosawa was an absolute master, one of the true auteurs. He died on September 6, 1998, at the age of 88.
Nice.
Yep.
I mean, not nice that he died.
No, but
he had a very nice, successful life.
yeah, he left an incredible legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sounds cool.
Yeah. I've seen some of Samurai. It's really good. I would like to see Rashomon. I haven't seen it, but I think I would really enjoy it.
Did you see Magnificent Seven?
No.
Me neither. I heard it was pretty good.
I'm sure it is not as good as Seven Samurai.
No, I'm sure it's not.
Yeah.
I'll see it.
Okay. All right, well, that will do it for this episode. So you are now up 13 to 11.
Not good enough. That's okay. I'll just make the next game hard.
All your games have been hard, except for your last one.
This is the problem with this.
What?
Is that, like, if I don't do well, I can just make the next one extra hard. You know? Like, there's no way to guarantee that we're staying at a consistent difficulty level.
We have a gentleman's agreement that we try to make them of roughly comparable difficulty.
That's true. Except with the last one, I was just thinking what would be fun for myself.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, listeners, if this was fun for yourself, let us know. Send us an email at quizandhers@gmail.com, or you can follow us on social media. We're at quizandhers on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can leave us a review on iTunes or subscribe on whatever podcast app that you prefer. And, yeah, we would really love to hear from you guys and hear a little bit about who's out there listening. So
yep.
If you like the show, drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you.
And if you don't like the show, let us know why.
Sure, yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah, definitely.
Curious to hear.
And, we are actually going to be on another podcast that's coming out this week. So our buddy Rory M. Spence hosts a podcast called Dog Hair Presents, and we guested on the episode that's coming out tomorrow, which might be today or even yesterday by the time you're listening to this. Who knows? It's coming out on Tuesday. I don't know.
So to recap.
So, yeah, definitely check that out. He taught us in that episode about the history of game shows. So that was definitely fun and probably relevant to the interests of some of our listeners.
Yep. If you like this, you'll probably like that.
Yeah, for sure. Until next time, we will say goodbye.
Bye.
Beta cassettes were more expensive and couldn't afford a full... So to recap...
Did you say recap?
No, I said reformed.
No, I'm laughing because I don't... Well, first of all, I know. And then I'm thinking I say recap. To recap...
Oh, yeah, I say recap, I guess.
I think I always say recap.
I think you just say it either way.
Okay. Reforward.
Alright. So to recap... Beta cassettes were more expensive and couldn't afford... Fucking hell, what am I... Jesus Christ.
Sorry, I shouldn't have said it again.
God damn it.
Are you trying to say afford?
No, I'm trying to say record.
No, I know, but are you mixing it up with afford?
I guess.
All right, take 3.
Okay. Center my chi. So, to recap, beta cassettes were more expensive and couldn't Damn it!
I'm sorry, now I'm just laughing. Okay. Let's just take a breath.